Champions League nights are returning to St James's Park, and this time Newcastle face Athletic Club on match day 4. By this point, we'll have a rough idea of what to expect from both sides and the chances of qualifying for the next round. Now, Athletic might not have the same superstar power of a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, or an Atletico Madrid, but don't let that fool you. On their day, they are one of the most difficult, disciplined, and proud teams in Europe. Now, today we're breaking down who Athletic Club are, how they play, their biggest threats, and what Newcastle need to do to keep all 3 points on Tyneside. Newcastle will face Athletic Club on the 5th of November, but for now, let's look at the context and the history of this great club. Athletic Club are one of the most historic clubs in Spain. 8-time La Liga champions, 24-time Copa del Rey winners, and still running on their unique Basque-only player policy. What a truly fascinating club. They can't just sign anybody. They rely on Basque talent, their academy, and incredibly smart scouting. Despite that restriction, they consistently compete in La Liga. They regularly qualify for Europe, and they've upset some of the biggest sides in the world in knockout ties. They're a team built on loyalty, work rate, and most importantly, identity. And coming to St James's Park, this is a great chance to show they belong on the biggest stage. In regards to the Champions League, though, this is the first time the Basque team have qualified for the competition since 2014-15. And last season, they're mainly known for losing 7-1 on aggregate to in the Europa League semi-final to Manchester United. Not their best result, but certainly not a reflection of the quality in that team. Under Ernesto Valverde, Athletic Club are tactically disciplined. They're usually set up in a 4-2-3-1/4-3-3, but it's a lot more compact than what you normally find with the modern team. They're more direct, they hold their shape, and they overload the centre of the pitch. They like to play long balls, get the ball out wide, and more importantly, when they can, get in behind those wing backs. They'll take a lot of shots and they will sit back and hold their shape as long as they can to frustrate the opposition. The issue they had last year when they played Man United in those games that I mentioned is they lost the lead. Well, they lost being level early on. Man United went to the lead early on. They had to change the way they played and they just got picked apart for it. But their defensive shape is their biggest strength. When they're aligned, their defence is fierce. They'll overload that midfield, then push the ball out to the Williams brothers, get them one-on-one, and then aim to physically overwhelm the opposition in both boxes. The only issue that they do have is because of that Basque-only player policy, depth can be a real issue. And if you nullify that wing threat from the two Williamses, they can struggle to create chances. They're the kind of side that'll thrive on mistakes. Newcastle don't make too many, and when they are, they're usually forced into it from a sustained period of pressure. Not something that we're expecting from Athletic Club. But what we are expecting is a lot of pace on the wings, coming from first Inaki Williams and Nico Williams. While Inaki is the spearhead of the attack at times, his pace, power and relentless running make him a nightmare for any defender. But he's not just about goals. He stretches defences, opens up space for others, and is a true legend of the game for Athletic Club. It comes no surprise that he's deemed as the main man, and he has been for about 10 years. And then on the other side, you have Nico Williams, the younger brother, and arguably the star of the team now. He's lightning quick, a great dribbler, and can change the game in an instant. While Newcastle played in the Sela Cup against Atletico Madrid not that long ago, and didn't really see the best these two had to offer, it's pretty certain that you'll see it, unless they're injured, in Champions League on round 4. But there's two other players that could dictate the game if we do manage to neutralise their wing threat, and that is Oyan Sancet, or Sancet should I say, the creative hub of the team. He's tall, he's elegant, and he's able to find passes in between the lines. There isn't a lot the Spanish midfielder can't do, but defending isn't a strong point to say the least. So it'll come down to whoever has more of the possession in that midfield, and whoever does better, should I say, with that attacking play. And to be honest, looking at it, Athletic Club will probably create the better chances, but Newcastle will probably create chances a lot more consistently. If they're clinical, Newcastle will win the game. But one player that could potentially stop that from happening is Spain's number one goalkeeper, Unai Simon. Commanding in his box, excellent shot stopper, and capable of keeping Athletic in games they should probably lose. Some argue that Simon is one of the greatest goalkeepers in the world, and I don't actually have an argument against it. This isn't a team of global Galacticos. It's a team of warriors that fight, not just for Athletic Club, but for the entire Basque region. And while the Williams brothers in particular will test Newcastle's wolf fullbacks all night long, if Newcastle do get 3 points, they'll have been in war with one of Spain's toughest regions for 90 minutes, and they're going to have to endure it to come away with 3 points. It'll be a high-intensity clash, and Newcastle will look to dominate the ball at St James's Park using Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali to dictate play. Atletico will press in bursts, especially when Newcastle try to play out from the back, and then they'll look to spring the two Williams brothers into space. The one player who will probably be massive for Newcastle if he is fit is Joelinton, who is absolutely excellent in transition for Newcastle and stopping transition for the opposition. If Nico Williams can isolate Trippier, Livramento or Hall, whoever plays against him, one-on-one, it'll be incredibly dangerous. But there is also the added effect of if Newcastle can pin him back with a Langer or Gordon and get those overlapping runs from the fullback and change the balance of the game, then realistically, Atletico are going to have some problems dealing with that Newcastle front line. And then arguably the biggest duel of the game, and I'm not just saying that because the size of the Newcastle striker, Nick Woltemade, him versus Danny Vivian is going to be, in my opinion, a very difficult matchup for the Spanish centre-back. While Vivian is arguably Bilbao's best defender, both him and Naito Paredes are not very small, but they're quite small for defenders. The tallest being 6'1". And with that height, power and precision of the Newcastle giant, it's going to be a massive test for those two athletic defenders. The beauty of the clash, however, is going to come from the clash of atmospheres. Athletic are used to massive stadiums. They are in one of the best in football, but they challenge at some of the best in football every single season, whether it's the Bernabeu, the Nou Camp. They end up playing in Europe against some of the biggest names in football. Realistically, they're used to intimidating stadiums, and they're going to be one of the clubs that Newcastle United's atmosphere probably can't scare. But a night at St James's Park is one of the most special nights for any club. And for Newcastle, this is a chance to show that Tyneside can rattle opponents as much as Bilbao can. The noise, the intensity, the sheer energy of the crowd, it can lift the players and overwhelm visiting sides. Athletic are known for their resiliency, but they won't face many away days like this. There is a massive amount of respect between the two clubs as well, and I genuinely think this is going to be one of the nicest but best overall atmospheres in the competition. So, do you think Newcastle can take all 3 points? Let's be honest, Bilbao aren't going to roll over. They'll fight, they'll press, and they'll hit Newcastle on the break more times than I can think. But at home, Newcastle have that quality in midfield and attack. You'd back Eddie Howe's men to create enough chances. The key will be concentration. Avoid giving the ball away cheaply, stop the counter-attacks, and keep your full-backs disciplined. If Newcastle can do that, this could be a statement home win that could give them great momentum going into some of the tougher away games in match day 5 and onwards. But what do you think? Will the home form shine through? Will Athletic spoil the party? Drop your score predictions in the comments below. Hit the like button. And if you're buzzing for another big European night like I am, don't forget to subscribe for more previews. This is the Champions League. It doesn't get much better than this. And this is the Daily Newcastle Podcast. check us out on Spotify, where you can find myself, Michael Grahamslaw, alongside Ian Mackay, Nicola Pringle-Adams, Joanne Ayres, and Kevin Esther for Newcastle United content every single day.